Welcome to Cayman Turtle Center.
A day of fun and adventure awaits at Cayman Turtle Center Island Wildlife Encounter. Swim and snorkel alongside sea turtles and other marine life. Meet tropical birds in the aviary, ride our turtle twister water slide, or simply relax by the lagoon. Plan your adventure today.
Visit us online at www.turtle.ky.
Good morning, Cayman, and welcome back to another episode of The Green Scene. You're here with Wendy Dandy, and I am one of the Education Programs Officer at the Cayman Turtle Conservation and Education Center. With me this morning, we have our resident veterinarian, Dr. Navi Babalal, and we're also joined with Mr. Geddes Hislop, our curator of terrestrial exhibits at the Turtle Center. We're excited to bring to you another episode of The Green Scene today, and we hope you'll tune in every Saturday at 11 a.m. here on Bobo 89.1 FM as we talk about conservation, wildlife, and much more. In today's episode, we'll be exploring topics relating to the conservation here in the Cayman Islands, including protecting our natural environment and preserving our culture and heritage, as well as talking all about sea turtles and other native species. On today's show, we'll be talking all about Cayman Turtle Center's conservation initiatives. So today we'll start with Dr. Navi, who has quite extensive experience with our conservation efforts at the center. Good morning, Dr. Navi.
Morning, Wendy. Thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you for joining us. So let's jump right into it. Could you tell us about some of the conservation efforts at the center?
Yeah, so firstly, I'd like to talk about our conservation efforts relating to the turtles, and that's specifically the green sea turtle, which is native to the Cayman Islands. So we do various types of releases of the green sea turtle, and I think the release that most people will be familiar with is the head-started turtle release that we do. We've had, a good turnout with visitors and locals coming out to our head-started turtle events. And I'll just give you a little background of what goes into the process of releasing a head-started turtle. We usually select a juvenile turtle, so that's a turtle usually a little more than 6 months old, but less than a year old. And we select this turtle for future release into the wild. When we select this turtle undergoes a health check. So this is similar to a person undergoing a health check to make sure that they're okay. So usually the turtle is physically examined, and then we also collect samples from the turtle to understand its overall health. During this time, we also tag the turtle with a pit tag for identification purposes. This pit tag can be read with a pit tag reader if the turtle is ever found anywhere else globally. So once we have done all of this with the turtle, we usually place the turtle in quarantine. And once the turtle is given a clean bill of health, we are allowed to release the turtle into the wild.
All right. So with your releases, I would assume you do releases of all stages of the turtle, ages and sizes?
Yes. So I started off with the head-started turtle because those are the bigger sized turtles that we release into the wild. But we also do hatchling releases. So at the Turtle Center, we have our hatchery where our dedicated nest watchers collect the eggs overnight when they're laid on the beach, and they allow them to be incubated in nest boxes at the center. And once these hatchlings are emerging from the nest boxes, we do a release in the night time, and we also invite members of the public to these releases, and we give them an educational experience this way. So that's a nighttime hatchling release, but we also do daytime releases, and we partner with local boat companies, and we release hatchlings offshore into sargassum patches, also giving them a better chance of survival in the wild.
Amazing. So it sounds like you guys have quite a few methods in which you release these turtles.
Yes, and one other release mechanism that we have is the nest translocation. So I'm not sure if people are familiar with that, but we usually implant a nest onto one of the nesting beaches in the Cayman Islands. Recently, we've been using Governor's Beach, and for this season as well, we should be implanting a nest there. So every season, what we do is take a clutch of eggs and separate them at the Turtle Center, and we implant half of the clutch on a known nesting beach, and we keep half of the clutch of eggs at the Turtle Center to monitor them. So I don't know if people know that we actually have a hatchery at the Turtle Center, but I just wanted to mention that we have dedicated nest watchers that are there overnight monitoring when a female turtle comes up to lay, and then they collect the eggs and then they store them in the hatchery. So this way we can actually see when the eggs are hatching in a controlled box that we have a plexiglass on, and we can see the hatchlings emerging from the eggs and making their way up the nest box. That way we kind of have an idea of when this would happen also in the wild.
Okay, so basically a clutch, as I think you explained earlier, is the number of eggs laid by a turtle. So half you'd keep at the center and half you transplant. And basically what's at the center is a control, so you can tell when that would be coming up.
Yes, exactly. And we would have nest watchers at the beach monitoring this nest on a daily basis in the nighttime, and we divide them into 2 different shifts. Usually, the hatchlings emerge around 1 a.m., 2 a.m. in the morning. So, you have to be awake and alert when that's happening.
Okay. And do you usually do this with staff or volunteers that are watchers?
It's actually a mixture. We do have very enthusiastic volunteers that come out to help us, and we also have staff members, not even in the animal programs department, but other departments that also come out to help us.
Okay, that's awesome. So for you listeners out there who would be interested in doing overnight watches, just a quick plug, you can contact us at info@turtle.ky for anyone who's interested in any volunteering opportunities for our turtle hatchling release season. So Dr. Navi, tell me more. When it comes to the incubation room, what's the difference? What makes the incubation room so special? Why do you collect them off of the beach, or your artificial beach, and keep them in there?
Well, when we collect them from the beach and we're putting them into our hatchery room, we're controlling the temperature in there. So we're trying to replicate a temperature that would give a sex ratio of 50% males and 50% females. And this is important because right now with global warming, it seems that we'll be producing more females than males in years to come. It's something that's predicted. Okay,
so what I'm understanding from that is reptiles, their temperature, their sex dependency on temperature.
Yeah? Yes, exactly.
So what is it? Is it hotter? What sex do you get with what temperature?
So we have a saying at Turtle Center, it's hot chicks and cool guys. So that's how we remember it.
Okay, and what temperature do you have the incubation rooms at?
So we usually keep it at 28 degrees Celsius, and that should give a good ratio.
Okay, Dr. Navi, so you've told us about quite a few of the releases. You said we have our head starters, which are more mature grown turtles. We have our nest translocations, our jump starts, and the hatchling night releases. And as I understand, as summer is coming up, the hatchling night releases are a lot more popular. So could you tell me and the listeners a bit more about that?
So the hatchling night releases, we're going to start them on the 29th of June. That's a Thursday. And we'll be continuing these releases every Thursday in July. So for further information, you can go to our website, www.turtle.ky, to find out more information on how you can sign up to be part of this experience.
All right, awesome. And I believe at those night releases, around how many of those baby turtles, hatchlings, do you usually release?
Well, it all depends on what has hatched on the day itself. And it's usually around, 25 to 50 hatchlings. Sometimes it's more.
Okay, awesome. All right. Well, thank you for that. We're going to take a quick break to listen to a few messages by our sponsors. You are tuned into The Green Scene. Please stay tuned in, and we will be back shortly after these messages.
Hi, you're listening to The Green Scene on Bobo 89.1 FM, brought to you by the Cayman Turtle Conservation and Education Center. I'm Jennifer Robinson, and I'm the aquarist. We'll be back in a few moments.
Welcome to Cayman Turtle Center.
A day of fun and adventure awaits at Cayman Turtle Center Island Wildlife Encounter. Swim and snorkel alongside sea turtles and other marine life. Meet tropical birds in the aviary, ride our turtle twister water slide, or simply relax by the lagoon. Plan your adventure today.
Visit us online at www.turtle.ky.
Did you know that turtles play an important role in ocean ecosystems? Turtles maintain healthy seagrass beds and coral reefs, providing key habitat for other marine life and helping to balance marine food webs and nutrient cycling. Learn more about our turtle friends at the Cayman Turtle Center.
Hello, my name is Coco. I'm a Cayman parrot at the Cayman Turtle Center. I was rescued and love my home here. Did you know our human friends at the center breed and raise Cayman parrots, the national bird of the Cayman Islands, then release them to live in the wild? Come visit me and my bird friends at Cayman Turtle Center.
Welcome back, listeners, to The Green Scene. You're tuned in here with Wendy Dandy from the Cayman Turtle Center. And I am in studio today with Dr. Navi and Mr. Geddes Hislop. And we're talking all about the conservation efforts of the Cayman Turtle Center. So if you weren't with us before the break, Dr. Navi was just breaking down with us the 4 major types of turtle releases that we have been doing over the years. So now that we're back, another question I would like to ask you guys is your other conservation efforts. Are there any other species you work with to have conservation programs?
Well, yeah. Besides the turtle, we also work with other national animal, which is the Cayman Islands parrots. And at the Cayman Turtle Center, to anybody listening to our previous episodes, it's the only place where you can see both Cayman parrots side by side. We have the Grand Cayman Amazon and the Cayman Brack Amazon. And we've been working on parrot releases since 2009, and it happened kind of by accident when we realized that we had bonded pairs, and we decided to try to let them breed, more for research and curiosity about how the parrots actually breed. But then the program took off on its own, and since then we've released a number of parrots over the years. The highlight of that, I should just mention, is that last summer, for the first time, we bred and released Cayman Brack parrots into the wild. We've been working on Grand Cayman parrots for quite a while. But Cayman Brack parrots, even though they're the same family, basically close cousins, but they have a whole different temperament. And getting them to breed was a little bit different. But we managed it, and we released our first Cayman Brack parrots into the wild last summer, which was quite a milestone. But there's more to it than just putting parrots in a cage and letting them have babies.
So why don't you tell us what more does it take than putting a parrot in a cage?
Okay. Well, it's all part of the health and welfare of the animals are very important as well. Parrots are quite highly intelligent, not casting aspersions, but they're different from turtles in that respect. Turtles they're not that, well, as we say, turtles, they're not the brightest bulbs, but they're just slow. Because they're turtles. But the parrots are very intelligent, so we have to look out for that. When you're considering parrots, you also have to consider their mental welfare as well as their physical health. If they're happy and everything is well with them, then they breed and everything goes well. Okay? So partnering with Dr. Navi and in getting these animals their best welfare is very important in keeping this breeding program going.
Okay, so when you release your parrots, I would assume they go through a strict quarantine like the turtles as well. And Dr. Navi would help with that. Could you give us an idea of some of the treatment these guys would have to go through before they're okay for release?
Yeah, so it's very similar to what the turtles undergo during their quarantine process as well. We have to physically examine the bird and ensure that the bird is healthy by also taking diagnostic samples from the bird. And once the bird goes into quarantine, we're also placing a tag on this bird to ensure that we have the proper identification of the bird. So at the Turtle Center, we use 2 different types of taggings for our birds. We use a pit tag, similar to what we put on our turtles, and we also use rings, which we put onto their legs, rings or leg bands as they're called. So with both of those, if we do come across a parrot in the wild and we check the identification, we can check the leg band of that parrot and also scan the parrot for a pit tag and know that it was released from the Turtle Center.
Okay, so there's 2 methods of identifying that these parrots would be from our center. What about male or female? Are you able to distinguish the difference between sexes?
So the Cayman parrot is sexually dimorphic, which means that you should be able to tell a male parrot from a female parrot based on the feathers. However, this can be tricky, and we have had some instances where we've thought a parrot that might be male ended up being female. So the only sure way to determine if a parrot is male or female is by DNA sexing. And how we do this is we take samples from the animal and send them to a lab to be analyzed. Last year, we partnered with the University of the West Indies School of Veterinary Medicine, and we sent them the DNA samples from our birds, which included feathers and also blood droppings, and we were able to come up with profiles for all our parrots. So we actually knew the sexes of the parrots we were releasing in the BRAC when we did that last year.
Yeah, so follow up on what Dr. Nabi said, DNA sexing just basically reinforces our sexual identification, because the keepers at the Turtle Center, we've been working with the parrots for a long time. So we figured out a system for identifying them by sight. But as she mentioned, when they're young, the features aren't fully established. So to avoid error, DNA sexing makes it a lot better, a lot easier. So, and it also gives us a chance to see how accurate our diagnostic techniques are.
They were pretty accurate, Geddes. I think we only had one that we thought was we weren't sure what sex the animal was.
Yeah, well, that kind of thing is also very useful for in the wild and out in the real world, because, for example, parrots that are being confiscated by DOE or rescued, it's good to be able to identify them, so we know sexes and species, so we know how to handle them accordingly.
All right. Well, that's a lot of extensive work that you guys are doing with both the green sea turtle and our national animal, the Cayman brack and the Grand Cayman parrot. So thank you guys for all of that hard work and efforts to ensure the future of these species in our islands. So other than the Cayman, both species of Cayman parrots, are there any other birds? Because I know there's the aviary and there's quite a few species of birds in there. Any other of those that you work with as well?
Yes, we also work with the white-crowned pigeon, what locals will refer to as a ball pate. We started that program around the same time as the parrots, back in early 2008, somewhere around there. And that was as a result of Hurricane Ivan. The white-crowned pigeon was a game bird at that time. Now it's a protected species. So as a result of Hurricane Ivan, the population was pretty much decimated. And then they had the additional pressure of hunting. So we decided, and we had some rescued white-crowned pigeons at the aviary. So we decided, well, we'll put these guys into a breeding program and start releasing those guys as well. And that program went really well. There are a few things we had to find out about white-crowned pigeons. Dr. Nawi could probably give you some more details, because it's not, again, just like with the parrots, it's not just a matter of putting two birds together and they lay. They're very skittish species. Yeah, we found out a few things about them as we went along. But like I said, the program is doing really well. And today, with the 2 years of lockdown that we had, we've noticed that the population of birds around the island seem to be even more robust. You see them even in urban areas, which was not a very common thing maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah, and we also released the white-winged doves as well. They're less, known or less popular than the white-crowned pigeon, but they're also another species that we release. And one thing I would say about any type of pigeon species is that they get very stressed very easily. So we try to do all our work with them early in the morning before the sun is too hot to ensure that we're not stressing out the animals as well.
Well, that's really interesting. You guys have your hands filled with a number of species that you're helping bring back their numbers to the islands. Very interesting. I don't think the public really realizes how much conservation work you do outside of just the green sea turtle.
Yeah, and it's nice that we can highlight the birds as well, because I know it's Cayman Turtle Conservation and Education Center, and you hear the turtle in the name, but we also, are doing conservation with other species.
Well, with all of these conservation efforts, I think it's safe to say this comes with a lot of research, local and international. I would love to hear more about that and let our listeners hear more about that, but we're going to take another short break. So stay tuned, listeners. You're tuned in to The Green Scene, brought to you by the Cayman Turtle Conservation and Education Center, and we'll be back right after these messages.
Hi, I'm Jennifer, and you're listening to The Green Scene. We'll be back in a couple minutes.
Welcome to Cayman Turtle Center.
A day of fun and adventure awaits at Cayman Turtle Center Island Wildlife Encounter. Swim and snorkel alongside sea turtles and other marine life. Meet tropical birds in the aviary, ride our turtle twister water slide, or simply relax by the lagoon. Plan your adventure today.
Visit us online at www.turtle.ky.
This is Geddes Hislop, the curator of terrestrial exhibits at the Cayman Turtle Conservation Education Center. This is a PSA for the bird nesting season. Every year, around May, June, is nesting season for our feathered friends here in the Cayman Islands. You might see a chick of a wild bird, whether it's a dove, a banana quit, a mockingbird, or something like that on the ground. These are what we call fledglings. This is the time of year when they will be testing out their wings and learning how to fly, and they will leave the nest. It was not unusual to find a baby bird on the ground. That does not necessarily mean that it's in danger. It's part of the natural process of this bird learning to fly, learning to move on its own. Most likely the parents are somewhere nearby. If you approach the bird, you probably won't see the parents because they'll be afraid of you. You're a large animal going close to their chick. The best thing to do if you come across a baby bird is to leave it alone unless it's in any immediate danger, such as near a road or near a dog or cat. If you do have to move it, you can move it somewhere nearby as close as possible, but somewhere out in the open where the parents can find it. Don't worry about if you touch the bird, the parents are going to reject it. Most birds do not operate on scent. They operate visually. So picking up a baby bird and moving it is not going to make the parents reject it. In all cases, we always recommend try not to take in a baby bird. Raising a young bird is a lot of work, we know. So if you can at all avoid it, it's best to just leave the bird alone and let the parents do what they do best. In case you need any information, the best thing to do is to contact the Department of Environment, or for advice only, you can also call us here at the Cayman Turtle Conservation Education Center and ask for the Animal Programs Department. We cannot take any wild birds into our program, but we can advise you on what best to do. Hope that helps, and have a great day.
Did you know that turtles play an important role in ocean ecosystems? Turtles maintain healthy seagrass beds and coral reefs, providing key habitat for other marine life and helping to balance marine food webs and nutrient cycling. Learn more about our turtle friends at the Cayman Turtle Center.
Hello, my name is Coco. I'm a Cayman parrot at the Cayman Turtle Center. I was rescued and love my home here. Did you know our human friends at the center breed and raise Cayman parrots, the national bird of the Cayman Islands, then release them to live in the wild? Come visit me and my bird friends at Cayman Turtle Center.
Hello, listeners. You are back in tune with The Green Scene, brought to you by the Cayman Turtle Education and Conservation Center. Today, we have two special guests in studio with us. We have CTC's resident veterinarian, Dr. Navi Babalal, and we also have curator of terrestrial exhibits, Mr. Geddes Hislop. And earlier in the show, we've been talking about all of the different conservation efforts carried out by the Cayman Turtle Center that goes much beyond turtle releases and turtle conservation. We've talked extensively about the types of releases, and we also moved on to the other species they covered, which is 3 different species of bird, including our 2 national parrots. So all of this entail a lot of research and data collection. And I'm sure this is very beneficial, not only to you guys, but on a wider scale to other conservation entities out there. So can you tell me the benefits, both through research and for the planet of doing all of this conservation work that you guys have done?
Yeah, Wendy. So, for example, with our bird releases, the Cayman Islands parrots and the white-crowned pigeons are two fruit-eating species. So we refer to them as keystone species, and a keystone species is an animal that has a major impact on its environment. So for example, when you think about beavers, right, you add a beaver to a stream and a forest and you end up with a wetland, and that benefits a whole other bunch of species because you get ducks and fish and so on into that wetland. In our case, with the pigeons and the parrots, both of them being fruit eaters, they're very important for dispersing seeds and fruits of trees in the forest. So heavy fruits, in the case of things like almonds, mahogany, they get dispersed by the parrots because parrots can fly with those heavy fruits. White-crowned pigeons, they're really far roaming and fast flyers. So smaller fruits that they eat, like sea grapes, for example, and other berries, they will disperse those not only on Grand Cayman Island, but they also fly between islands, unlike the parrots. So these guys by doing the releases and bringing these animals out into the wild, the term that they're using these days is rewilding, in a sense. By putting these animals back out into the wild, they do their job, and that helps actually in the long run with climate change, because having a healthy forest is very good for maintaining your microclimates, for the water cycle, because trees help transpirate water. We know about the Amazon and the Congo in Africa being the lungs of the world. So producing oxygen, producing moisture, and the animals do that work because that's what they evolved to do. So putting these animals out into the wild and conservation of wildlife is not just beneficial to the environment itself, but in the long term it also benefits us.
All right, thank you for that, Geddes. And Dr. Navi, what are your thoughts? How does this translate over into the research side for you?
So recently, research-wise, we partnered with Upwell, which is a non-profit organization in the US, and they are mainly dealing with sea turtle conservation of all the different species of sea turtles. And we were fortunate enough to partner with them and to partner with Nicole Bobo, who was a PhD candidate, and she did her PhD studies on turtles, and she actually came to the Cayman Islands and partnered with us to do satellite tracking of our head-started juvenile turtles to monitor their patterns when they're released and to see what happens during this release period. And because she came down, we also were allowed to help with this project by learning how to satellite tag these turtles with the new types of satellite tags that are now available on the market. So these satellite tags were actually the prototype, and we were able to see if the tags were good or if they needed any type of improvement. And during this study, we did realize that the tags needed some improvement, and we also let the company developing the tags know that. But also, from this project, we actually got some good feedback. So we released 40 turtles of different age groups into the wild during different seasons and at different points of the island. And we actually saw that the younger turtles would stay more to the coastal regions, and the older turtles were actually swimming further away from the island. So that actually, it makes sense. It kind of gives us an idea that the younger turtles are staying around, using the reef to help eat the seaweed and stay closer to the sargassum areas.
Amazing. So I'm assuming, the Turtle Center is the only facility in the world that can accommodate this kind of research of this sort.
Yes, especially if you want to do a research topic based on the ages of the turtles. Because we know the ages of all of our turtles, because they're born in captivity, we're able to help with that aspect of a project.
So with the aging and sexing, has you guys delved into more research?
So we also partnered with a researcher in Australia, and because we have turtles of a known age, we were able to take skin biopsies from these turtles and have them analyze that, and now they can compare the ages of our turtles to the ages of wild turtles and actually help determine the ages of the wild turtles using the information they got from our turtles from their DNA.
Well, that seems like an amazing amount of research that is going on behind the scenes. That's not only helping locally, but the international community with their conservation efforts as well. So that was a lot of useful information and a lot of information I'm sure the general public didn't know about. So thank you guys for sharing that with us. We're going to go into taking another break before we wrap up the show after these messages. So just to remind you, you are tuned into The Green Scene, brought to you by the Cayman Turtle Center. And I am Wendy Dandy, your host for today, and we'll be back after these brief messages.
Hi, this is Geddes from the Cayman Turtle Conservation Education Center.
Hi, this is Shona from the Cayman Turtle Conservation and Education Center.
Hey, this is Wendy from the Cayman Turtle Conservation and Education Center.
We're inviting you to our new show.
Welcome to Cayman Turtle Center.
A day of fun and adventure awaits at Cayman Turtle Center Island Wildlife Encounter. Swim and snorkel alongside sea turtles and other marine life. Meet tropical birds in the aviary, ride our turtle twister water slide, or simply relax by the lagoon. Plan your adventure today.
Visit us online at www.turtle.ky.
Hi, this is Geddes Hislop. I'm the curator for terrestrial exhibits and education programs at the Cayman Turtle Conservation Education Center. Check us out on The Green Scene. You can tune in on Saturdays at 11 a.m. Bobo 89.1 FM.
Did you know that turtles play an important role in ocean ecosystems? Turtles maintain healthy seagrass beds and coral reefs, providing key habitat for other marine life and helping to balance marine food webs and nutrient cycling. Learn more about our turtle friends at the Cayman Turtle Center.
Hello, my name is Coco. I'm a Cayman parrot at the Cayman Turtle Center. I was rescued and love my home here. Did you know our human friends at the center breed and raise Cayman parrots, the national bird of the Cayman Islands, then release them to live in the wild? Come visit me and my bird friends at Cayman Turtle Center.
Welcome back to The Green Scene, brought to you by the Cayman Turtle Conservation and Education Center. And now we're going to have a quick talk with Mr. Adam Jackson, who is the lead acurist at the Cayman Turtle Center. He's carrying out his own research as well on the turtles that are in the swimming lagoon. So we'll take a quick talk with him. Adam, can you tell us more about your research?
Hi everyone, Adam Jackson, lead aquarist at the Cayman Turtle Center here. So just to give you guys a little idea of some research and conservation efforts that we actually do with our green sea turtles in the marine department, just to give you an idea of what we do. So we have a pretty vast snorkeling lagoon where we house currently about 38 green sea turtles that we have in there. Now these turtles are about a year and a few months old. They are growing really well. Of course, they are in there for display purposes, for our guests to swim along with them and to see how they interact with the semi-natural conditions and environments that we provide them with. Now, some of the research that we do with these guys is that when we put these turtles in, when we first put them in, the very first day we'll do some weight checks and biometrics, so like weight and measure their shell width and length and get an idea of how large these turtles are. Now usually we put these guys in around 10 to 15 pounds and we do a weight check or biometrics with these guys every 3 to 4 months. In these 3 to 4 months, we'll usually invite out a volunteer group who would like to help us because, of course, it's 15 to 20 turtles that we're doing at once. We usually do half of the population at a time. So we basically invite groups to come around, volunteer groups to come around and help us out with these projects. Now, over the last few years, we've been compiling some information about these green sea turtles, and it's kind of fascinating to see how these turtles thrive when in optimal conditions. For instance, in 4 months, we've seen these turtles gaining an average of about 15 to 20 pounds. And that just goes to show you, our lagoon, our saltwater lagoon provide these turtles with a kind of a semi-natural condition. They have access to food regularly. Green sea turtles are grazers, so they typically constantly graze, just like how cattle will graze on grasslands. These guys will graze as well. So the algae that is growing in the exhibit, due to the pristine seawater that we have in there and the conditions that we have in there, allow these turtles to graze. Now, not only are these guys foraging and grazing on the algae, but we're also feeding them 3 times a day. All right, so we'll usually feed them about 1 kilogram of their little turtle pellets, 3 times a day in their little feeding cage, where they actually have to learn to come and feed. So a few things. We found that turtles will actually follow one another and learn from one another. When we will replace half of the population of the turtles in the turtle lagoon, we usually see that the older turtles will teach the younger turtles, and just because the younger turtles are curious and following the older ones, on how to come into this feeding cage and feed. And in about 2 to 3 weeks, we have about 20 turtles following each other and basically coming into the cage to feed. So these guys are learning from one another. But then not only that, but we actually have gathered some data to pretty much show that these green sea turtles are gaining an average of 15 to 20 pounds in about 4 months. So this goes to show you that when a nice good semi-natural conditions with food and everything available in an optimal environment, turtles can grow pretty quickly during their maturing stages of life. And it's pretty cool to see. Again, we're feeding these guys, we're providing them a very good habitat where they have a lot of room to swim around, and we're just blown away sometimes by how much these turtles actually grow in the exhibit. It's always a good thing to come and see. Of course, we always invite people to come out and swim with our turtles in our turtle lagoon. Not only do we have turtles in there, we have several different types of Caribbean reef fish that you'll find all throughout the reefs here in the Caribbean and in around the Cayman Islands as well. So it's always fascinating to see. But again, just going back to our research on these little guys, noticing how fast they're growing will just kind of give you an idea of how quick green sea turtles can grow, given the optimal conditions. And we always pride ourselves on how well we keep our animals and how well we keep these guys fed. And of course, every few months, the newer population is changed out for an older population, is changed out for a newer population, with the older population going to the displays out front. The newer guys, they're coming in and then they're getting settled in and acclimated to the exhibit, and then they're going to go and spend about 6 months in our saltwater lagoon, experiencing and also living in that marine environment that we give them. So pretty fascinating stuff. I hope that you guys enjoyed this, and of course, please feel free to come out to Cayman Turtle Center, come to swim in our saltwater lagoon and experience the thrill of swimming around 38 green sea turtles all around you. They're very curious animals. They always come up to see what's going on and all that kind of stuff. They'll even swim right by you without you even knowing sometimes. Anyway, guys, take it easy, take care, and we'll talk again soon.
Hi, you're listening to The Green Scene on Bobo 89.1 FM, brought to you by the Cayman Turtle Conservation and Education Center. I'm Jennifer Robinson, and I'm the aquarist. We'll be back in a few moments.
Welcome to Cayman Turtle Center.
A day of fun and adventure awaits at Cayman Turtle Center Island Wildlife Encounter. Swim and snorkel alongside sea turtles and other marine life. Meet tropical birds in the aviary, ride our turtle twister water slide, or simply relax by the lagoon. Plan your adventure today.
Visit us online at www.turtle.ky.
Did you know that turtles play an important role in ocean ecosystems? Turtles maintain healthy seagrass beds and coral reefs, providing key habitat for other marine life and helping to balance marine food webs and nutrient cycling. Learn more about our turtle friends at the Cayman Turtle Center.
Hello, my name is Coco. I'm a Cayman parrot at the Cayman Turtle Center. I was rescued and love my home here. Did you know our human friends at the center breed and raise Cayman parrots, the national bird of the Cayman Islands, then release them to live in the wild? Come visit me and my bird friends at Cayman Turtle Center.
Welcome back to the Green Scene, brought to you by the Cayman Turtle Conservation and Education Center. Today we have been in studio with Dr. Navi and Mr. Geddes Hislop, and we've been talking all about the different conservation efforts that have been carried out at the Cayman Turtle Center. And we have covered everything from the multiple types of turtle releases that happen to the bird conservation efforts that we have with four species of birds, actually, our two national birds, and also the white crowned pigeon and the white-winged dove. We also talked a bit about other international research right before the break. And now I'm going to wrap up soon with one last question for Dr. Navi. Dr. Navi, before we go, can you tell us if there are any other current research projects being done?
So, Wendy, as we mentioned before, the sex of a hatchling is temperature sex dependent. So what we're actually looking at is creating a field test or some sort of mechanism that we can actually determine the sex of a hatchling when it emerges from a nest. And this would be helpful for researchers in the wild because, as I mentioned, there is a prediction that we may have more females hatching than males in the wild. And we're hoping to contribute to the field research by helping come up with this test. And it's ongoing. We started doing some research last year, and I'm not sure if we will complete everything this year, but this is applied research and is applied and ongoing research. And this is something that can be done at the Turtle Center because we have the resources to do it.
Yeah, well, the good thing is that this is also being recognized internationally. Dr. Navi did not mention it, but for us in the terrestrial side, as well as in the marine and the turtle sections of the center, we put all this information into an international database known as Species 360. Around the world, zoos, aquariums, and other institutions like that use this international database to log all their information. And we contribute to that body of information that's used by organizations like IUC and International Union for the Conservation of Nature, and they use that information to set their conservation programs, to set their species statuses around the world. And they've actually just recently, just this week, we got a message from them congratulating the Cayman Turtle Conservation Education Center on 10 years of contributing to that database, and all the great results that are coming out as a result of that. So we're waiting to get more information from them on exactly how our information was used. But it's great to be acknowledged in that way. In the tiny Cayman Islands, we're contributing to a global database that helps conservation all around the world.
That's quite impressive.
Yes, even recently when I attended the International Sea Turtle Symposium, it was so great to meet researchers that are kind of interested in the same questions that we have. And, they're wanting to collaborate with us as well. So, we're a facility on a small island, but we have a big impact worldwide, actually.
That's what I'm beginning to understand by all of this information I'm getting from you guys. It's very impressive work done by the center.
Yeah, well, it's good to know that just to use technical term, there's in situ and ex situ, which basically you want to think of it as in the environment or outside the environment. Conservation these days, you have to work both sides, because there's very few parts of the planet now where humans don't have some kind of impact. I mean, just recently I read about them organizing, we organize beach cleanups here. They're organizing cleanups on Mount Everest.
Oh wow!
So these are some of the in some of the remotest places on Earth, they have to go up there and clean plastics and trash. So if that's the case, the kind of conservation is becoming even more important because we're reaching all corners of the globe, even the most remote places on Earth. So this kind of research contributing to what little Cayman Islands can contribute to the rest of the world, being able to organize things like helping them to identify the sex of a turtle or the age of a turtle. Those are really helpful in making management decisions out there in the field. But they can't do that by working with a field animal, because when you pick up a sea turtle, you have no idea how old it is or how long it's been around, or sometimes even hard to tell the sex depending on how big or small it is.
And in addition, you don't know the health status of that animal as well. So that's why, we have that advantage here at the Turtle Center as well.
Yeah, so, and in the case of the Cayman Turtle Center, one of our milestones that we're really proud of, besides releasing to date with about 36,000 sea turtles into the wild since this program started, is that the research that was concluded back in 2018, where we looked at the DNA, we compared the DNA of the wild nesting population of sea turtles in the Cayman Islands to the DNA of our breeding herd at the Cayman Turtle Center, and found out that 90% of the breeding turtles, the breeding females, their DNA can be traced back to our release program. Not just on Grand Cayman, but about 76%, I believe, in the sister islands can also be traced back to our program. So that's the impact that this captive breeding program can have on Cayman. Imagine what it can do for the rest of the world.
90% is a ridiculously impressive amount. Good job to you guys, and a real round of applause for all the work that you guys have done, especially with bringing back local populations. All right, well, this has been a very interesting episode, as always, every week. I've learned a lot today, and I hope the listeners out there, you've learned a lot as well. I want to thank you both for joining us today. And before we wrap up,